Buy on MTG. Construct your deck. Command your board. Conquer the table.
Hey everybody, it's Rob with Buy on MTG. We're playing a little Commander game today. Jason is on the play, so he's going to go ahead and lead us off with what he's playing.
Well, hello, my name is Jason. I am playing Zhalfir. It's a slightly upgraded version of the Precon, just trying to do some night things and take stuff in and out of the graveyard.
I'm Seth. I like his style of doing the March of the Machine Precon, so I'm doing the Brimaz one, but we're going to be doing Phyrexians, reanimating them out of the graveyard as well.
With the primary focus of being foil.
Mostly just
foil
foils.
cards. Yeah,
I want my deck to look.
So he's hitting us with his wallet. I'm playing elves. This one cares about elves dying, and this one makes sacrifice.
What are their names?
They're Mira and Titania. I'm gonna kill my elves and hopefully draw cards.
That's reasonable. I'm playing Precon that's also very shiny. It's a Disa. It's a Disa Goif deck. Disa Goif deck. There we go. Anyways,
Yep.
You're on the play. Does anybody have any pregame actions?
No, not yet.
Jason starts us out with a port town, revealing an island and passing the turn to Seth. Seth plays a Vault of Champions and then taps it for a Soul Ring. Passing to Ryan, he plays a Pathway with green side up, taps it for a Jorgana Tree Speaker. Passing over to Robert, he plays a Mountain and passes. Jason draws and then plays the island he revealed last turn, taps for 2 for an Orzhov Signet. Passing over to Seth, he untaps and draws for turn, plays a Tainted Field, taps for 3 for an Urza's Incubator, naming Phyrexians. Passing over to Ryan, he plays a fetch land, so he fetches and shocks, and then he's going to level up the Tree Speaker and passes to Rob while he's searching for the land. Rob draws for turn, then plays a Swamp, taps for 2 for an Arcane Signet. Passing to Jason, he untaps and draws, then he plays Plains as his land for turn, taps for a total of 3 for a Knight's Exemplar. Passing over to Seth, he untaps and draws for turn, plays the Swamp, then taps for 2 because his commander is reduced by 2 and brings out Brimaz. He then taps for 1 white more for a Metastatic Evangelical. On cast, it's going to trigger Brimaz. He's going to incubate X, where X is 2. While Seth is looking for the token, he goes up and passes the turn to Ryan, who untaps, draws for turn, plays a Woodland Cemetery. He then taps for 3 for an Elvish Champion. He then taps for 2 more for a Prowess of the Fair. Passing to Rob, he untaps and draws for turn. He then taps for 2 for a Talisman, and then taps for 2 more for a Rampant Growth. Plays a tapped Stomping Ground and passes the turn to Jason while he's searching for his basic. Gonna untap and draw for turn, and he's gonna play a Prairie Stream, which is gonna come into play untapped because he has 2 or more basics. He then moves to combat and swings at Rob for 2 because he has no blockers. Sidar's gonna trigger, so he gets to draw and discard. Second main, he taps for 3 for a Herald's Horn, naming Knights. Moves to his end step, and Seth activates the Incubate token to transform it. Seth untaps and draws for turn. Has a sly little chuckle, so the table's a little worried. Plays a Fetid Heath. He then taps for 2 for a Rhea Ivor, Bane of the Bladehold. That'll trigger Brimaz for an Incubate 4. It also triggers Metastatic, so he proliferates. Moving to combat, he's going to swing Brimaz at Rob and the Incubate at Jason. He's going to use Rhea Ivor to have Brimaz deal no damage. Jason's going to take 3, and Seth is going to make 3 mites. Second main, he taps for 2 for a Mind Stone. Passing over to Ryan, who untaps and draws for turn, plays a Prismatic Vista. Cracks it for a basic, and then taps for 2 for a Myra Thorn of the Glade. Taps for 3 more for a Phyrexian Altar. Done with his turn, he's passing to Rob, who untaps and draws for turn. Plays a Wooded Foothills, and then taps for 3 for a Tauren Mauler, a.k.a. a Lurgoyf. Then taps for 3 more for a Black Market Connection. Passing the turn over to Jason, he untaps, and on his upkeep, he reveals a Knight off of Herald's Horn, so he gets to put it into his hand, then draws for turn. Plays a land for turn, then moves straight to combat, swings at Rob for 2. Eminence trigger, he's going to get to draw and discard. Discarding a Wonder, he immediately gives his Knight flying. Moving to his second main, Jason taps for 3, reduced by 1 from Herald's Horn, and Jason casts his commander for the first time. Triggering Rob's Tauren Mauler, so he gets a +1 counter. As Jason moves to his end step, Seth goes ahead and activates to transform his incubate token. He then untaps and draws for turn. Seth moves to combat. He's sending the 3 Phyrexian Mites at Jason. He's applying the Rhea Ivor trigger onto the 5/5 Phyrexian token and sending that at Rob. Then he's sending Rhea, Brimaz, and the 3/3 token at Ryan. Jason's going to block one of the Mites with his commander. Rob is going to take 0 from the 5/5 token, but it's going to trigger the Rhea. Ryan's going to block the 3/3 with the Elvish Champion and the Brimaz with Mira. Prior to damage, he's going to sacrifice them to Phyrexian Altar, paying the mana into Mira to draw a couple cards. After blocks and damage is assigned, Ryan's going to take a total of 3, Rob's going to take 0, and Jason takes 4 and gets 2 poison counters. Rob taking 0 is going to trigger Rhea, so it's going to make Seth a bunch more Phyrexian Mite tokens. Second main, Seth taps for double white, reduced by 2 from the incubator to cast Elesh Norn, which is going to trigger Rob's Torn Mauler. Elesh Norn is also going to trigger Seth's Brimaz, so he's going to make a 4/4 incubate. Seth then taps for 3 and sacrifices 3 of the creatures to flip the Elesh Norn. When Elesh flips, he incubates 2 5 times and then flips all incubate tokens. Seth forgot his Proliferate trigger off the Evangelical when Elesh Norn came into play, so he adjusts board state. Moves to his end step, so Brimaz Proliferate goes onto the stack, and he proliferates all of his stuff, and Jason's poison counters again, he is up to 4. Passing the turn to Ryan, he untaps and draws for turn, plays a command tower as his land. Rob cracks a fetch on Ryan's turn. Ryan taps for 4 for a Roaming Throne, which is going to trigger Rob's Torn Mauler. Ryan taps for 2 more for a Zulaport Cutthroat, that's going to trigger the Torn Mauler again. Couldn't find a board wipe, so he passes to Rob. Rob untaps and draws for turn. Then on his main one, he's going to pay 3 into Black Market for a treasure and a card. Rob moves to combat and swings the Torn Mauler at Jason's Indestructible Commander for absolutely no reason. Second main, Rob taps for 1 to Blasphemous Act. In response, Ryan sacrifices 2 elves to Phyrexian Altar for mana. That's going to trigger Zulaport Cutthroat a couple times. Sacrificing the creatures is going to trigger Prowess of the Fair. It's going to be doubled by Roaming Throne, so he's going to get a couple more elves that he sacrifices for additional mana and points at a removal spell at Jason's Night Lord that's making everything indestructible. Once Jason's Night Exemplar is gone, then the board wipe resolves, and we all lose an additional 3 damage off of Ryan's Zulaport Cutthroat. After all Ryan's creatures die, Prowess will trigger, it's doubled with Roaming Throne, and he will end up with 4 elf tokens. With the Blasphemous Axe on the stack, Seth is going to sacrifice his Mind Stone to draw a card. After Blasphemous fully resolves and the board is wiped, Rob taps for 5 for Disa Goif Mama. Passing the turn to Jason, he untaps. Herald's Horn trigger on his upkeep, he doesn't find anything, so he draws for turn. Plays an Exotic Orchard as his land for turn. Jason taps for 5, reduced by 1 from Herald's Horn, and brings his commander back out. He then taps for 2 more for Chivalrous Alliance. Passing over to Seth, he gets to untap and draw. Then he ticks up the Elesh Norn saga. Fortunately, Rob found a board wipe, so we are not dying this turn. Plays an Isolated Chapel as his land for turn. He then taps for 4, reduced by 2 from Urza's Incubator to recast his commander. Brimaz is back on the table. He then taps for 2 more for a Filigree Vector that's going to trigger its ETB as well as trigger Brimaz. Done with his turn, he's passing to Ryan, who untaps and draws. Plays the Yavimaya Cradle of Growth as his land, so now everybody has forests. Ryan taps for 4, brings Mira back out. On Ryan's end step, Rob taps for green and sacks a treasure for a black for a Grizzly Salvage. Notable reveals, 1 forest goes to hand. Chameleon Colossus going to the graveyard is going to trigger Dissa, so it's going to bring the Chameleon Colossus back to the battlefield. Also now there is a Brawn in the graveyard, so all of Rob's creatures have trample. Rob then untaps and draws for turn. On his main phase 1, he's going to pay 3 life to make a treasure and draw another card off of Black Market Connection. Plays a Shifting Woodland as his land for turn. Rob does a quick card type count of graveyards, and there are a total of 6. Moving to combat, he sends Dissa at Jason and the Chameleon Colossus at Ryan. No blocks after they take their combat damage. Dissa is going to trigger and make 2 Tarmogoyf tokens. Leaving the rest of his mana up, Rob passes to Jason, who untaps. On his upkeep, he Herald's Horn and doesn't find anything and draws for turn. Jason plays an island as his land for turn. Jason moves to combat, swings his commander at Seth. There's an attack trigger, so he draws and discards. Then with combat damage, he brings back the Knight Exemplar. Jason then taps for 3, -1 from Herald's Horn for a Vidillion Mage Knight. Passing to Seth, he's going to untap. On his upkeep, Rob is going to attempt to Chaos Warp the Elishnorn and flip to the Argent Etching. And with the Chaos Warp on the stack, he's going to attempt with Mayhem, targeting the Chaos Warp. Even with the attempt at politicking, nobody took me on the deal except for Ryan, so he is going to Chaos Warp the Knight Exemplar, so that gives me 1 additional copy. So the second Chaos Warp is going to target Brimaz. First Chaos Warp off of Seth is going to reveal Aaron, Benalia's Ruin. Jason's Knight Exemplar becomes an Arcane Signet. And lastly, the Elishnorn becomes a Phyrexian Delver. Delver entering the battlefield, Seth is going to pick Rhea to come back, so he's going to pay 4 life. Finally moving to his main phase, he plays an Ancient Tomb as his land for turn. Seth casts a Praetor's Grasp, he's picking Ryan. Seth immediately casts what he stole from Ryan, and that would be the One Ring. Taps it right away to draw a card. He then pays 2 to transform his Incubate. Seth targets his Phyrexian token with the Rhea Ivor trigger and sends it over to Jason. Jason makes a sacrifice for the team and blocks with a Knight, so that way Seth doesn't get a bunch of Might tokens. On Seth's end step, Jason flashes in a Liliana Standardbearer to draw a card. Passing the turn to Ryan, he untapped, no actions on his upkeep, draws for turn. Then he taps for 4 and casts Tana. Then taps for 1 more for a Deathrite Shaman. Done with his turn, he passes over to Rob, untap, upkeep, draws for turn. Main phase 1, he's going to pay 3 life into Black Market Connection to make a treasure and draw another card. Rob plays the Command Tower as his land for turn. Moving to combat, Rob sends a Goyf token at each Jason and Ryan for 6, and then he makes 2 more Goyf tokens. Passes the turn to Jason, who untaps. On his upkeep, Herald's Horn trigger, but he doesn't reveal, so he draws for turn. Plays an island for turn. Taps for 2 for a Baked Potato. Taps for 3, -1 from Herald's Horn for a Herald of Hoofbeats, giving all knights horsemanship. Jason moves to combat, swings his commander at Rob and the Standard Bearer at Ryan. Eminence trigger from Jason's commander, so he's going to draw and discard. Then he's going to hit Rob for 4, so that's going to trigger his commander again to bring a knight back from the graveyard. Jason brings back the Vidillion Wave Knight. Jason then taps for 3 for a Painful Truth to draw 3, lose 3, and put 3+1 counters on all of his knights. Jason then taps for 2 more for a Corpse Knight. Passing the turn over to Seth, he's going to untap. On his upkeep, he's going to lose a life from the One Ring, and then he's going to draw for turn. Seth then taps the One Ring right away to draw 2 cards. We recognize that Jason missed a draw trigger from his Chivalric Alliance, which doesn't change anything, but he does draw the card to balance it out. Seth plays a Mycosynth Garden as his land for turn. Seth goes into the tank for a little bit, counts out his mana 2 or 3 different times. We all start to worry, trying to figure out what the heck he's trying to do. He ends up tapping for 6, leaving 1 floating for a Cataclysmic Gearhulk. With that on the stack, Ryan goes ahead and sacrifices 2 creatures to Phyrexian Altar, pays the mana into Mira to draw a couple cards. Nobody has any planeswalkers, so everybody sacrifices down to 1 artifact, 1 creature, and 1 enchantment. Rob cracks the couple treasures he had to float some green. Seth uses the 1 additional he had floating and taps 2 more for Vraska's Fall, making each opponent sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker and get a poison counter. Rob activates Shifting Woodlands to make it a copy of Tauren Mauler in the graveyard, and that's going to be the creature he sacrifices so he can keep his commander. Before Seth moves to combat, Ryan is going to channel Takenuma. Unsure if Rob knew about this card that well, but he feels like it would be perfect for his Goyf deck, so he's jumping online and ordering one. Passing the turn over to Ryan, he untaps and draws for turn. Seth reminds Rob that he had attacked him with Aaron, and he has Manache, so Rob takes 3. Ryan taps for 4 for a Poison Tip Archer. Taps 2 more for a Zulaport Cutthroat. Ryan then moves to combat and karate chops Seth in the neck with a 1/1 elf token. Passing the turn to Rob, he untaps, draws for turn. Rob decides only to pay 2 life into Black Market Connection to draw a second card. Rob plays a Swamp as his land for turn. Rob moves to combat and swings Disa at Seth for 5 commander damage and then makes a Goyf token. Rob taps for 5 on his second main for a Necro Goyf. Rob then taps for 4 more and plays Anger. Pass on the turn to Jason. On his upkeep, he has to discard from Necrogoyf, so he discards Hero of the Bladehold. Plays Evolving Wild as his land for turn. Jason then taps for 5 for Path of the Enigma. We're not doing the Planeswalk mechanic, so he just draws 4 cards. Jason taps 2 white, -1 from Herald's Horn for an Adeline Resplendent Cathar. Pass on the turn to Seth, he untap, upkeep, pays 2 life to the One Ring, draws for turn. He also discards to the Necrogoyf, he discards a Plains. Taps the One Ring to draw 3 more. Plays the Plains as his land for turn. Taps 4 for a Terror of Tawashi. Passing the turn to Ryan, he untap. On his upkeep, he discards Craterhoof to Necrogoyf, draws for turn. Ryan then taps for 3 for a Riveteer's Ascendancy. Done with his turn, he passes over to Rob. Untap. On his upkeep, he discards Forest to Necrogoyf, draws for turn. First main, he pays 2 life into Black Market Connection to draw another card. Rob moves to combat, sends Dissa at Jason, the Goyf token at Seth, and the Anger at Ryan. In response, Jason cracks his Evolving Wild. Jason doesn't block, so he takes 5 Commander, which is going to trigger Dissa to make a token. Seth blocks the token, but he takes 3 from Trample because there's a Brawn in the graveyard. And Ryan blocks Anger with the Poison Tip Archer, killing it. Poison Tip is going to see 2 creatures die, so each of Ryan's opponents lose 2 life. Rob hit 2 players, so he makes 2 Goyf tokens. Done with his turn, he passes over to Jason, who is untap. On his upkeep, he has to discard. Discarding a Thriving Moor, then Herald Horn triggers. He reveals a Murderous Rider, so he puts it in the hand, then he draws for turn. Jason plays a Plains as his land for turn. Jason taps 3 for a Swift End, targeting Zulaport Cutthroat. In response, Ryan sacrifices it to Phyrexian Altar, going to trigger Zulaport as well as Poison Tip Archer. Riveteer's Ascendancy is going to trigger. He's going to bring back Deathrite Shaman. Rob then taps for 2 to try and take out the Poison Tip Archer, so Riveteer's Ascendancy can't trigger again. And in response, Ryan taps for 2 for a Heroic Intervention. With Heroic Intervention on the stack, Seth taps for 3 for an Exercise the Imperfect, targeting the Phyrexian Altar, so he will exile it and incubate X. Jason moves to combat. He's going to swing Adeline at Ryan. It's going to put a couple triggers on the stack. He's going to draw and discard from his commander, and Adeline is going to make 3 1/1 humans going at each other opponent, making Adeline into a 4/4. In response, Ryan transforms the Incubate token into a 3/3. Seth is going to block the 1/1 with his creature. Ryan is going to block the 1/1 with the 3/3 Incubate that's transformed, and Adeline with the Poison Tipped Archer. Rob blocks the 1/1 with a 6/7 Tarmogoyf. Poison tips, all 4 creatures die, so all of Ryan's opponents lose 4 life. Second main, Jason taps for 3 more and plays a Commander Sphere. Jason taps for a black to float and sacrifices it to draw a card. Jason then plays a Swamp for turn. Jason then uses the floating and taps for 3 more, -1 from Herald's Horn for a Vona. Jason taps for 2 more for a Midnight Reaper. Pass on the turn to Seth, he untaps. On his upkeep, he has 2 triggers. He's going to discard to Necrogoyf, and with the second trigger, losing 3 life to the One Ring, he is going to tap and source the Plowshare, his own creature, to gain some life, so that way he doesn't die from the ring. So in total, he gains 4, but he loses 3, so that puts him at 4 life. Draws for turn, then immediately taps the ring to draw 4 more. Seth is back in the tank, trying to figure out if there's anything he can do to salvage this game from Ryan crushing us on his turn. Seth couldn't come up with anything, and he sees the writing on the wall, so he just passes over to Ryan. Ryan immediately moves to combat, swings the Elf token and the Incubate token at Seth and the Poison Tip Archer at Rob. Seth can't block, so he takes 4 and he's knocked out. Rob blocks with the Necrogoyf, killing the Poison Tip Archer, but it kills the Necrogoyf because of Death Touch. So 2 creatures die, so Poison Tip is going to trigger twice, and Rob and Jason are going to each lose 2. Ryan then activates Deathrite Shaman to drain the table for 2, knocking Rob and Jason out of the game, making Ryan the winner. Hello everybody in the wide world of web, this is Rob with Bion MTG. So just finished the editing of the Commander game. This is going to be from last week. So let me look at the date real quick. Sorry about that. It'll be the 6th of November. Like I had said in the pack opening video the other day, I ended up coming down with COVID for the very first time, and voice is slowly getting better. And but got the game edit complete and uploaded now. Had a couple issues with camera where it was lagging. Not 100% sure exactly what was causing that. But that being said, I did a small investment for camera equipment. Really, I just kind of Googled what camera the Command Zone uses, and I got that. Now, it is an older camera, so I certainly didn't have to pay brand new full price. But that being said, I do hope the video quality increases quite a bit, and we'll see. It's going to be a learning curve because I've never used equipment of that caliber before. But it's been a blast so far, and I'm looking forward to not just getting better with the equipment, but more so getting better with editing and just being more comfortable with the process as a whole. I hope you did enjoy the gameplay, and congrats to Ryan for closing it out. And I hope you're all having a great week and an awesome weekend coming up. I'm Rob. This is Bion MTG. Good luck and have fun.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below.